This is a Lawn Boy Model 10323 with a 6.5 horsepower Duraforce 2-cycle engine. In today's short little video, I'm going to show you how to fix one of these lawnmowers. It can be any model as long as it has the 6.5 horse Duraforce engine that does not rev up when you move the throttle control down, or doesn't respond to the throttle control at all, just sits there idling. I've seen a couple other videos on YouTube about this, and they all suggest that you should replace the carburetor. But that's a large waste of money. The problem's actually very easy to fix. Come on, I'll show you. So as you can see, when I move the throttle control up and down on the handle, the engine does not change in speed. It just sits there idling away, and you can't cut grass like that because the engine is not running fast enough. The problem is actually that a small spring in the carburetor has come disconnected. The carburetor is under here at the back of the engine. Unfortunately, in order to reattach this spring, we are going to need to remove the carburetor from the engine. This isn't exactly a difficult process, but it is a little bit complicated. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is undo these 3 screws, Phillips head, that hold the gas tank and air shroud assembly onto the top of the cooling shroud. Then you can just sort of go ahead and lift it up and take it off. And you might want to undo the pull start from the handle just to give you a little bit more room to work. Alright, now you can disconnect the fuel line and the primer pulse line from the carburetor. And then just set the gas tank assembly out of the way. Now you can undo the clip and remove the rear of the air box. So you can remove the air filter, at which point you will see 2 shiny screws, also Phillips head. Go ahead and take those out, being sure not to lose either of them. And then you can slide the whole air box and air duct assembly right off the back of the carburetor. Then you can just reach in and pull the carburetor out the back, just like so. There you go. And make sure you don't forget this little aluminum heat shield. That's important. Okay, so I have the carburetor off the mower now. The only thing I've done since removing it is just sort of brushed some of the debris off of it. Although, it doesn't really have to be perfectly clean for what we're doing today. We're not going to be going into the bottom or any of the sealed portions of the carburetor. We really only care about this little area right here. This is the butterfly valve and governor assembly. You can see when I move this white plastic flag, the little butterfly valve opens and closes inside the carburetor. This is how the engine adjusts the speed. This flag here sticks up into the top of the engine and is blown back and forth using the air that comes off of the cooling fan. On the bottom of this assembly there is a small spring. This spring connects up to a linkage that operates from the throttle control. The problem is that this little spring right here is no longer connected to this governor arm internally. There's a small hole, I'll see if I can find it, it is right here, that the spring is supposed to clip into. Over time, the spring sort of stretches out and falls out of that little hole, meaning this spring can just move freely around the carburetor, as you can see, and there is no change in the operation of the governor arm. Obviously, when you move this spring back and forth a minute amount, like this, with that linkage from the throttle control, it does absolutely nothing, and this is just blown wide open from the air coming off the fan and just sits there at idle and will never come off. So I'll show you how to fix this right now. So the first thing you need to do is take the carburetor like this and position it so the butterfly valve is open. Now get a pair of needle nose pliers and grab the brass part of the butterfly valve and just pull it out. Like that. Looks like a little coin. Now don't lose this. Set it off to the side. And now we can take our carburetor and grab this flag and just pull it straight out of the carburetor like this. There you go. Okay, so we're looking at our governor flag here from the carburetor and our little spring that operates from the throttle control. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and just pull that out of the governor flag and just set that to the side. And here's our spring. And as you can see, the little end on here is just sort of flat. This should be a hook facing that direction. So all we're going to do is get our little needle nose pliers here. We're going to grab the spring with the needle nose pliers, make sure I'm still in focus here. And we're just going to bend this little guy like that. See what I did there? I just bent it so it faces that way and slightly up. Slightly up is important. I'll show you why in a second. So now we can take our little spring, we can find our hole in the side of this piece, that's right here, and we're going to take the little piece we just bent and put it through the hole and put the spring back inside. And if you can see here, the little piece of the spring comes through the hole and it holds the spring in place so that when the spring tightens up, it moves this little flag back and forth. And that is how the governor system operates, just like this. Now it's just a matter of putting everything back together. So go ahead and get your flag here, slide it down into the carburetor, just like so. Now go ahead and get the little butterfly valve part, the little brass coin. We're going to grip this in our needle nose pliers, just like so. And we're going to slide it through the slot in the flag, just like that. Now check and make sure our butterfly valve is operating, and it is. So now I'm going to take you back outside to the lawnmower, and I'm going to show you how to hook all these little linkages up. In the effort of making a clearer video, I have assembled the entire carburetor assembly outside of the engine, just sitting here on the ground, just so I don't have to try to film around all the other parts of the engine that block the view. Basically, this is your air filter box right here, and this is your throttle control cable. It slides this mechanism back and forth, like so. This is your carburetor, obviously, and this, on the other side of this aluminum plate, is the engine. This is the intake, would be right here. Basically, as I mentioned before, air blows this plastic flag back and forth. That spring is connected right here to this arm from the throttle control. See that? How that's connected right there? That just hooks on there. So as this arm moves back and forth, when you move the throttle control on the handle, that adjusts the tension on the spring. The spring adjusts the resistance on this little flag right here and changes how much the air blowing from the fan can push it out of the way. Thus, that changes the speed. More spring, more speed. Additionally, when this plate moves all the way towards the camera, a little plastic pawl right here moves this C-shaped piece and turns on the choke. It is very important to make sure everything is assembled in the right order. First, you need to put the airbox on, and there is a gasket which fits between the airbox and the carburetor. Next, you need to put the gasket on that fits between the carburetor and this heat shield. And on the other side of the heat shield, it's usually just stuck to the engine, but there is another gasket right here. You must make sure all the gaskets are intact and functional, or the engine will not run properly. It will hunt up and down and not keep a steady speed. The mower is all put back together here, so I'm just going to add a little bit of fresh gas. There was no fuel in this before I started this process, so put a little fuel in here, and we'll see how it runs.